Neither film is really animated too well. You can tell with Rhesus that it does have slightly higher production value than the TV series, but it's nowhere near the usual quality of Disney. You'd think this wouldn't be too hard to beat in terms of quality, so it's amazing that Hey Arnold doesn't even come close. This film looks terrible. Imagine if you saw it in theaters, which I did. I saw this movie in theaters. I mean, look at this. Everything looks so washed out and ugly. Just for fun, let's compare it to an episode of the show. And there you have it, a movie that actually looks worse than its TV show counterpart. Even made-for-TV movies have animation as good as the show. How is this even possible? Nickelodeon always had some of the best animation on television. Their shows usually looked pretty good. I mean, you look at something like Jimmy Neutron, which actually started as a movie, and there's no real visible difference between the production value of the film and the show. Why is this so ugly? I don't think I would even consider it behind the times. This movie would have been ugly like 20 years ago. And here we have the final comparison. Now, both shows, when compared to cartoons, especially those made today, were pretty laid back and mostly down to earth. Now, sure, we have scenarios in Hey Arnold where a 9-year-old is apparently a suitable campaign manager for a candidate running for city council. I mean, seriously, everyone in this town relied on this kid. It was kind of ridiculous.
Hey, Arnold! I respect the fine work that you did as Mr. Green's campaign manager, and so I thought that I would propose that we make a pact.
A pact?
I want Mr. Green to quit the race. If he does, I'll fix the pothole in front of his shop.
Dude, he's 9. Somehow I have a feeling that if you just bring attention to that, it'll help your campaign a lot more than bribing him will. And yeah, nearly every season had a somewhat supernatural episode, which usually played out the same way. There were a lot of outlandish things going on, but it never really went completely off the rails. Rhesus, I think, had the potential to be a little crazier because it was a cartoon that looked at things more from the perspective of a kid. And he had all kinds of crazy characters, like the Diggers, and the fact that all the kindergartners were basically savages. Yeah, okay, so I totally get that one. But it was fairly down to earth compared to the other shows at the time. As I said at the beginning of the review, Hey Arnold focuses mainly on the neighborhood, while Rhesus focuses mainly on Rhesus. So it makes sense that Hey Arnold the movie would focus on the possible end of the neighborhood, while Rhesus would focus on the end of summer vacation.
And nylon straps for maneuvering in vertically challenging situations. A two-way secure walkie-talkie for maintaining communication. And a synchronized, programmable glow-in-the-dark watch, set to Greenwich time, and accurate within 1/10,000th of a second.
Hello?
Good job getting the key.
Wait, deep voice, where are you?
Don't worry about that. I'm watching all your movements. I'm everywhere and I'm nowhere. But mostly I'm everywhere.
Come on, deep voice, cut with the voodoo dolly mumbo jumbo, okay? Yeah, why do you have to be so mysterious?
If you have not inferred already, these films completely jump the shark. Like, holy shit. We have a scenario where 2 4th graders are taking on a big corporation run by a guy seeking revenge for his ancestors' fall during the famous Tomato Rebellion, with little spy kids mixed in. And Helga dons a couple of stilts and a trench coat as the mysterious Deep Throat. How did she get into Shaq's building again? If it was that easy enough for a suspicious-looking person in a trench coat to sneak in unnoticed, why the spy stuff? Oh, and then there's this, and just for fun, I'm going to play the conclusion of this scene first just to confuse you. See, I bet you're saying, like, what the fuck, right? Well, the actual explanation for this doesn't make a whole lot more sense. Yeah, Pickles turned Helga's dad into the Incredible Hulk. There was nothing Nothing like this in the show. I'm damn serious. I remember a couple of people pointing out that it was way too cartoony and unrealistic for Chocolate Boy to have smoke coming out of his ears in the one scene from the episode where Arnold is trying to break his addiction from chocolate. And now we have Big Bob as the Incredible Hulk, and Arnold and Gerald are running around at 4 o'clock in the morning as secret agents. So, what about Recess? Well, as weird as this may sound, despite the fact that this movie goes off the rails even more, it somehow works better. Yeah, the whole premise for how the villain in this movie plans on getting rid of summer vacation is that he plans to change the course of the moon so that the tide changes and it will be winter forever. There are teleporters in this movie. Maybe it's just because the characters react to it properly. That is how a normal person should react to this situation. Maybe that's what's bothering me. The fact that these characters don't seem to find this weird just adds to the weird.
You clowns, here's the deal. The boys are off risking their life with some crazy plan to get a rare historic document from the hands of that Shek character, and they don't stand a chance.
I love how he's just totally cool with letting his 9-year-old grandson wander around a mega corporation with another 9-year-old. He even acknowledges that he'll probably fail. We'll just bail him out of prison when he does. Supposing they even bother with prison and don't just shoot him outright. It's cool, he's an orphan, no one will miss him. And also, where are Gerald's parents? There is no way they'd let him do this. I mean, Arnold seemed to have some freedom, but Gerald's parents were actually pretty strict. And that's another thing, because then logically you'd ask why the parents of the kids in Recess would let them run around like this, but here's the thing, they still think they're at camp. There's a whole scene where they come up with ways to cover up their absence. You see, a little something like this does wonders for suspension of disbelief. But even disregarding that, Recess is set up much, much better than the Hey Arnold movie is. It has pacing. The film starts off pretty similarly to the show with the last day of school and then TJ and his friends partying for the summer. I mean, it's not too long before things get weird, but at least it establishes everything in a mostly natural way. This is how Hey Arnold starts. I think it's fitting that the Nickelodeon logo sneezes on us. And that was the extent of their pacing. So much for build-up. Frankly, this whole movie should be about what happens in the first 14 minutes. We should have a story about the neighborhood getting together and trying to stop Shek. That premise sounds like Hey Arnold, and has some potential to be at least somewhat sentimental. The show was not too bad at getting across genuine emotion. This film could have been decent.
As it stands, it's a mess.
Now, I'm not saying that Recess Schools Out is a good movie, but it's pretty much what I'd expect. Everyone's there, everyone's in character, has a few nice touches, and even though the plot is ridiculous, it at least looks like the people making it were enjoying themselves. This looks like it was written and animated by 10-year-olds.
Now, originally there was actually another Hey Arnold film in the making, referred to as The Jungle Project, which was supposed to initially be the theatrical release for the series. But Nickelodeon decided to take this film, originally created for television, and make it the theatrical release instead.
I guess that kind of explains why it looks so cheap and why it doesn't even come close to theater standards, but even as a television movie it kind of fails, although off the top of my head I can't really think of any successful Nickelodeon TV films. I mean, I've seen way better TV movies on Cartoon Network, like Operation Zero.
Maybe the Jungle movie was better, who knows, But one thing's for certain, this movie is awful. It lacks anything that made the show good. It barely resembles it, to be honest. Now, Recess School's Out may not be a terrific movie, but at least it feels like the show. I'm the animated heroine.